Okay, so Bill and Brett, you guys both were on panels today talking about site selection and advantages to placing a site for a battery plant. I guess what would, if you had three main items to identify when going through the site selection process, what would you say your top three would be?
So we talked about bring the right team, come prepared, and that chances are the owners aren't as sophisticated on this topic or these challenges. So build the right team, get the right team on board, from your site selection expert, your incentive expert, and your engineer, and bring your owner's team as well so that we can partner with them to get your true capacity demands, Americanize the layout based on local codes and requirements, and the intent of code, because like you said, Bill, IBC hasn't caught up with these factories yet. So we have to apply the intent of code and have the negotiations with the local AHJ. The more information we have up front, the tighter we can get, so that they can, like they said, it's not really a selection process, it's a deselection process. So they can deselect the sites that can't accommodate those needs or capacity requirements or the building siting, and then invest in the relationships. Once you narrow it down of those local, the county officials, the city officials, the AHJ, to understand, do you have a good cultural fit, and what else are they going to reveal to you once you select that site? What are the unknowns, and flush out as many of those as possible.
Yeah, and I think one of the things we also talked about was, as you narrow the sites down from 10 or 15 to 5 to 3, and get down to finally the one that you think is the best fit, it's good to always have a backup, whether it's site 2 or 3, but to have that backup in case something falls out with the entitlement process in the first site. So that's another valuable thing. Part of it has to do with the traditional things that we look at is just the geotechnical aspects of the site. How level is the site? What are the amenities around the site? Like I was talking about the traffic patterns and some of the support, whether you need the railways, what's the local jurisdiction, whether it's the county or the city. What are they going to provide as far as infrastructure on the roadways, and some of the labor market things. Some of those things are also site considerations besides some of the stuff that you brought up. I think you were talking about forming the team and bringing the expertise to it, and I'm talking about more of kind of physical constraints.
And then what we heard from our panel partners on your panel and mine, including your owner rep and all the construction reps, is so bring the engineer, bring the A&E on early as well, because we can help formulate the program requirements that are going to influence the best fit of the site. We can do that without a site selected. Just do the generic design, the generic analysis, so that you have a good understanding of a best fit or a best orientation of a facility with sizes of parking lot, outbuildings, chemical tank farms, collection areas, finished good warehouses. We can have all that laid out conceptually so that we can best fit it to actual sites to help with that site selection process. And then like they all said, once that site's selected and it's out in the public media and it's a big deal, everybody wants to see progress. By doing that upfront work, we can help accelerate right into the early release packages, the site works, the site utilities, the long lead orders, the steel procurement, so that construction can just flow and you can actually accelerate and go quicker than if you do a traditional gate project delivery.
Yeah, and I think the way we were looking at was a parallel path is while you're doing the site selection and looking at some of the physical parameters, that we're also working on the program and design of the building so that you can even evaluate the sites, so that you can look at, like you were saying, not only the production wing, but all the supporting facilities, all the traffic patterns that you need, all the parking that you're going to require, and any future that you might want to do. Things like the power of the substations and things like that, you're going to need to understand the general size of those. And so if we understand your program early on, that can inform the site selection as well.
Bill, just a question. How early would you recommend a client get involved in identifying the permitting needs of a site or multiple sites if they're trying to down select?
Fairly soon in the process. One of the things that we were talking about in some of our panel discussions was the transparency with the local AJ. You want to come in and tell them what you're planning and how you want to do it. Part of the problem is that we can't do the kind of traditional design bid build. We need to be able to push these projects out and have an accelerated permitting process. And we have to get buy-in from the local AJs, because a lot of times these are small communities and they just don't have the resources, so they're going to have to outsource those. And so they need a kind of a schedule and a determination of what these packages are going to look like so they can hire these outside resources. So it's very important to get that dialogue going early on. There's some things that the IBC simply doesn't address that we're going to have to ask for exceptions to the code. And so if we can start to outline those early and we can get them a level of comfort and figure out what trade-offs they might want, the better one the design will be.